looking at choosing a profitable business idea. That's the core of our conversation this afternoon, choosing a profitable business ideas. And a whole lot of persons have been wondering, what business ideas should I look into and how should I be able to navigate these business ideas? And that's what we're going to be looking at. Our consultant is right here in the studio. He's going to be giving us a wonderful insight on things that we need to know, and it's no other person than Mr. Usaid Tres or Mokal. Mr. Usaid, good afternoon this afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, Mr. Usaid Tres Mokal is a business consultant and he is also a business analyst. He's going to be giving us his own perspective this afternoon. Now, before we go into the topic for today, that's looking at choosing profitable business in the myriad of ideas and business that somebody may be having. Now, let's quickly look at some decisions made by the federal government. And one of such, making a headline yesterday and today, seems to be the fact that the president is, should we say, contemplating or has actually given the knock to say travel allowances has been cut down. Do you see that as a positive development when it comes to the ailing Nigeria economy as of today?
All right, thank you. Personally, we all know that in trying times, everybody wants to go back and begin to cut down on expenses. So Nigeria is in such time. And when we hear words from those in authority telling us to tighten our belts, that there is turbulence ahead of us, we want to expect that they do the same. So I think with headlines like this coming up telling us that the government is already giving instructions to cut down on their expenses in whatever way, I think for me is a welcome development. But what we will simply ask is that they follow through with the pronouncements, because it's one thing to pronounce something, particularly for us in Nigeria, it's another thing to follow it through. So I think it's a welcome idea.
All right, welcome ideas. Now let's also look at the fact that in 2023, we saw the 2023, the whole lot of challenges that characterized that year. And part of it is the shutting down of businesses. Businesses were closing down as a result of the pressure in the economy and also in the way of doing business. And in spite of this shutting down, we're still seeing a whole lot of energetic Nigerians who are enterprising, still wanting to come up with business, to start up as entrepreneurs. How do we marry these two realities? We're seeing business shutting down, we're seeing entrepreneurs being inspired by, I don't know what is inspiring them, they are being inspired to start up businesses. How do we merge both realities?
Yeah, it's very clear that the business environment in Nigeria at the moment is stressful. You can't take that away. You can't take that away. For those of us who have been there, you are spending so much to keep your business afloat. And while you are doing all of this, with the hike in fuel prices and the increment that goes with that in every other facet of life, your staff are expected to even earn better, so they are able on their end to also cushion that effect. You know, for companies that already have that have already established and they are already there with a high number of personnel, it could be very, very stressful. It could be very stressful. So we can see some companies shutting down and wanting to relocate to places where they think the fundamentals are better off for them, you know. But for young Nigerians who are still eager and still motivated to start business, the truth is that entrepreneurial spirit is something that we all have on the inside of us. In fact, it's a human spirit that when there are challenges and there are likely no way back, you have no option, you have to face it.
Even if you go into the sea.
Yes, because if there are options, I used to tell people that you want to know what majority of Nigerians actually will prefer. You find that out when they find themselves outside the shores of this country. They easily just take a 9 to 5. Why? Because the environment, the 9 to 5, they are able to measure what they
predictable.
earn. They are predictable. But here, we practically do not have it. So when you can't get a 9 to 5, you are pressured to wanting to start your own business.
Is it 9 or even 8 to 5 in some place of quarters?
So a lot of us are not necessarily starting these businesses because we want to, because it happens to be the only option. So what do you tell a man who could not secure a job for reasons best known to him, either personal or economic wise? This person is beginning to want to look at what is it that I can provide to the market in exchange, and in reality, business is actually solving a problem and getting paid for solving a problem. So when there are problems, their problems are actually business opportunities, particularly for the people who are prepared, who have the right knowledge, the right network, and they have the capacity to take a deep look at the market and understand customers. Then they are able to put their propositions together to earn from solving such problems. So once there are problems, it's a call for wealth for those who are entrepreneurial.
All right, now let's look at business ideas. Are all the business ideas that come into the mind of entrepreneur, are they all what gets to the final stage or gets out there, or are there criterions investors or rather entrepreneurs should look when selecting from multiple business ideas, since the capital is not there to start all or to execute all these ideas? What are those criteria? Do all these business ideas get into the market, and what are the criteria that entrepreneurs should be looking at in ensuring that they choose the most suitable business idea that will get the most patronage and revenue?
All right. Business ideas are supposed to be around the challenges, the problems of humans. So in choosing a profitable business idea, you want to first try to understand what's the challenge, what are people facing. You want to see what's the gap in the market. By gap, I mean what should be and what is. The difference between what should be and what is creates an opportunity for a business. So when you experience that, an idea pops up in your head. But you take such ideas because multiple of that happens to us, particularly when you live in a place where a lot of things are not yet in place, like we have in our economy. So when you see some of those gaps, the first instinct for someone who is entrepreneurial is, let me solve this problem. That's what inspires an entrepreneur. That's what inspires an NGO, and all of that. But you have to then come back and look at yourself. First, do I have the capacity? Do I have the capacity to solve this problem without depending on any external support? The reason that is very important is the fact that I see people come to us to say, sir, I have this business idea. And the person is just analyzing the idea, and you ask the first question, what's your expertise? You realize that this business idea needs a business development specialist. The business idea needs a technologist, someone who could build the technology around it. The business idea requires someone who could provide leadership for all of this. And the person who says, I have a business idea, doesn't have any of these capabilities. So the question is, from inception, you are going to begin to need help. That's where you see people say, I have a business idea, and for the past 2 years, 3 years, I've not seen somebody to fund me to start. Some of us believe that funding is not the most primary demand of anybody who has a business idea, but people fight that. You know, they think that when I have the money, I will be able to start. But the experience has also shown that we've seen a lot of people who had funding, but because some of these other things that we'll be dealing on today were not in place in a sequence that they should be in place, they had the money and they wasted it. So I think when you have a business idea, the first question you want to ask yourself is your capabilities, your competencies to providing solution to those ideas without needing an external help.
All right, now let's bring it down. It seems we're speaking a whole lot of grammar here. Now, you see an average guy from the East seems to just come into a place, notice quickly as possible a need there, and it quickly respond to that need. Do you think entrepreneurs are born, or they over time develop themselves to become entrepreneur in spite of the challenges that may be around them?
Yeah, I just like somebody will ask the same question for leaders. Are leaders born or made? I think there are people that have that intrinsic disposition to entrepreneurship. But if you do not and you want to develop it, you also can develop it. You know, a lot of Nigerians that are doing well entrepreneurially today, possibly if they had the option, they may not have been entrepreneurs, but the environment conscripted them to becoming entrepreneurs. And it's a learnable skill. So some persons have it in them from childhood. They think from that perspective. You know, so for every opportunity that comes around them, they think from the perspective of entrepreneurship. Those people, when they have the option, they would rather want to start something than to work a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You know, so but anybody can develop it.
All right, now let's look at identifying needs. It seems like one time we heard somebody saying, it seems as if there is a blindness around persons. They look, and as they are looking, they seems not to be seeing needs staring them at the face. Now you will hear expatriate who comes to Nigeria, they'll tell you, you can literally pick naira dollars from the streets of Nigerians. And in that same Nigeria, we have a whole lot of people who are I don't want to say begging, but I think that's the right words. Now, how should would-be entrepreneurs, so to speak now, be able to identify needs? Looking at it, they will say, okay, this could be a gap or a need in the society or in the environment, and begin to take advantage of it. How should would-be entrepreneurs identify these needs?
Yeah, I'll take it back to our educational system. We do so much. We place so much emphasis on certificates, which for me is very important. But our educational system is not teaching people to be problem solvers. Educational system on the one hand, our religious system also is not teaching people to be providers of solutions to problems. You know, an average Nigerian, let me not use the word an average Nigerian, because majority of Nigerians are entrepreneurs and they are making tremendous impact. But if you can just see yourself from the perspective that if there is a problem, I deserve to be one of those to solve it. You know, we grow up in an environment where everybody talk about government. Does that exonerate the government? Not at all. But I say for myself, for instance, mentally, I crucified everything government around 2007, mentally. So I tell myself, if government make the environment better, I will thrive more. But while they are yet to do that, whatever I can to remain on top of the game, I must do. So that has worked for me. Because the truth is, somebody said when you fly on the air and you see those uncompleted buildings, he said the owners of those buildings are people that are waiting for the prices of cement to come down.
And we know it
They are
has not.
still waiting, and the price is still going up. I appreciate the fact that government has a lot to do. But between the macroeconomy and microeconomy, I choose to always take my perspective on tackling the challenges from the micro. I want to deal with that individual. Because when we talk about the macro, there are macroeconomists that should be discussing that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to become one of those that are complaining when I know that government most likely are not listening. So I rather want to deal with that individual and tell you that if you're able to take responsibility for your life, and when you see challenges where others are crying challenges, you are seeing, well, how can I solve this? You know, because that perspective is what these expatriates come into our country with. Expatriates will not see fuel increasing and be complaining. They are
Why?
asking, what products can we increase? Which of our products can we increase to ensure that we get more buyers? You know, but there's this entitlement which is not out of place. You are in your country, you believe that the raw materials from your country, everything should benefit you, is good. But what about a situation where it's not coming as you expect it? Are we going to sit down and continue to complain? I have this mantra: if 1, 2, 3, 4 persons are going through the same challenges and one person is able to solve it, the rest of us do not have an excuse.
Just 1/4.
So if one person can solve it, what do you need to do? There is something that this guy knows that we do not know. So the question is, are there people in Nigeria that are thriving? If they are, what do they know that I can learn from? I think individually, while we must keep pressing the government to do what they must do, I think individually, when you are able to take life from that perspective, you're going to see that you are in Nigeria, you are almost operating like an expatriate. You are seeing challenging, you are asking yourself, what can I do to solve this? Because the more people that have this problem, the more money I can make from that problem. While majority are saying, government, 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 I'm saying, what can I give to them before government is able to wake up? You see it? So whatever I'm able to supply to that needy market becomes wealth for me. So until government fixes things, I think we must begin to see things from the perspective of expatriates.
All right.
You know,
Now let's look at this train of thought. I can say 10, 15 years ago, we had this school of thought trending all around the business space where people were encouraged, all right, to be entrepreneurs. But all of a sudden, we saw a decline in it. That's on one hand. Then on the other hand, are you not, do you think the average Nigerian is trying its best enough, or is trying enough to be an entrepreneur because, or in spite of the pressure that we are going through as a people? Now, the first question is, there was a time this school of thought thrived, all right, where a whole lot of persons actually woke up, took responsibility of themselves. And at that time, we saw some changes. Now, while that is on one hand, we're also looking on another hand. Are Nigerians doing their best enough to ensure that they survive the pressing and the harsh economic reality that they're experiencing?
all right. Okay, answering that first question where you talked about a time where this was the rave of the moment.
Be your
Become
boss.
an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
be your boss.
Sack
and all
your
of that.
boss or thereabout.
How to sack your boss, how to be your own boss. While that rave was on, I saw something that was missing. Many people were running into becoming entrepreneurs for the wrong reason.
What were the wrong reasons?
For instance, if the only reason you want to be an entrepreneur is because you want to be your own boss, you really did not take time to study the spectrum of entrepreneurship. Because if you take time to study it, you know that nobody is actually their own boss.
The customer is the boss.
Your MD, where you are currently working, may have the capacity to hire and fire but the customer still have capacity to hire him and fire him.
Correct.
So whether you like it or not, we are all working for somebody. We are all working for somebody. So just jumping into business because you want to be your own boss is not a good motivation.
But we had some persons who also had the idea they don't want to say sir to anybody.
That's pride. That's pride, because even in my business, I still say sir to my customers. I got a call just before this conversation, and the person who called me is a client who pays me in good chunk. And obviously, if I do my investigation, I may be beholden to him. Who cares? I said, sir, I'm about to get online. I'm about to get on a TV station. I'll call you by 1:30. So you don't want to say, sir. See, you can already see. First, I want to be my own boss. Remember, if everybody think and acts like you, who is going to support you? Who is going to be your staff? And you can't be your boss without the support of others. Otherwise, you become the slave. You understand? So the motives that drove us into it were not the right motives.
Or the proponents of this idea, did they also miss it at some point in championing this idea?
Yes.
Back in those days?
Yes, I think sometimes things are taken to the extreme. In an attempt to correct an error, if you are not careful, you go to another extreme. So that's what I was saying. Those persons have genuine motive to motivate people to see challenges, to see problems in the society and solve them. But in an attempt to drive people use words like salary is the bribe you take to neglect your dream.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the best business school of today is the workplace.
Correct.
The best business school of today is the workplace.
Correct.
So
You learn on
that's
the
a place where you learn on the job and you don't pay school fees. You get paid while you are learning. So the first video I released when COVID struck, I titled it Demystifying Work. Because when COVID struck, everybody had to go back home. And I asked myself, what is that one skill that I have that has helped me to move my business to where it is? I realized that it was my business documentation skill. Your ability to have an idea and you're able to sit down on your own and do the necessary market research and develop a business plan. So I began to create courses around that to teach other people how to do that. And while we were in COVID, I was still earning. But before COVID, I had worked in different places. And one of the things I shared there is that if you work anywhere for 6 months and you separate from that job, you are not able to create solutions from where you were working. It means you were working for the wrong reasons. So if you're actually working to learn, if you're actually working to learn, whatever you were doing for customers while you were working, when you separate from that business, you should still be able to do it for humans and still keep earning. So the motive matters. I think that's where we missed it. Because see, when you jump into something for the wrong reason, after a while, the things begin to balance itself out. Entrepreneurship is not a get-rich-quick scheme. In fact, the demands of entrepreneurship is higher than just taking a job and earning a salary. I have mentees that I mentor all over the world. One of them from Lagos was talking to me yesterday. I said, I was in Lagos last week. I couldn't see you. He said, sir, I'm hustling. In fact, it's beginning to look like a 9 to 5 is a better option. I said, no, don't think like that. This is the option you have. Stay at it. But this same man that is talking shared an issue that happened in his business where he lost about 500,000 some months back, just few months back. A salary earner may not be talking at that level. Obviously. A salary earner may still be talking around 50,000, 100,000. So there is much money coming from entrepreneurship, but there's also a huge demand. So you need to look at yourself. Who am I? Do I have the capacity? When somebody is saying, I earn 200,000 at the end of the month, an entrepreneur is saying that my wage bill is. So it's a different.
World
So imagine
altogether.
somebody who jump into that just because he wants to be his own boss. Now, month is ending. Today is 25th, for instance. Your account balance is 100,000 and you have 550,000 to pay at the end of the month.
That's application for disaster.
So entrepreneurs stay at that, and yet they are still able to put themselves together and still drive the business.
Now let's look at growth and stability. Now the ideas have been, you have done through the sieving process, the ideas are gotten. How do we grow these issues? That's one challenges a whole lot of persons have. The ideas, they start small and stay small. Now the ability to scale this business idea becomes another issue. In your own opinion, how do we scale this business idea? What are the factors entrepreneurs should consider in scaling and also getting growth potentials in their business ideas?
The first thing I would say is that every entrepreneur must understand that their business cannot grow more than them. Your business cannot become bigger than you. So the more you grow, the more your business grow. For instance, during that COVID, towards October, thereabouts, I joined a class that cost me 200,000 naira. And the person training us was teaching us on Zoom from his back end. We were close to 200 in that class. And the goal of that class was that in 6 weeks, everybody will participate in this session by the strategies that are going to be taught. We must earn a minimum of 2 million naira. That was the goal that the organizer of this program had for us. And he was sharing strategies for you to begin to look at what you already have and begin to do more with it when it comes to marketing and sales and all of that. At the end of that 6 weeks, I made like over 300% of that goal. And after that, my mind was so expanded to the extent that I could take a bold step to hiring and renting an office that's like over 3,000% of my previous office.
Wow.
So what happened? There was a growth in my mind that translated growth in my business. You know, and one thing that comes with growth is that it helps you once it's like an elastic. Once your mind expands, it hardly comes back. So you begin to think at that level. So things begin to happen to you at that level. So a businessman who will not pay 50,000 naira to attend a training, to learn, a businessman who will not be able to pay to improve the processes of his business, your business cannot grow. Right now, there are technologies that can guide you, that can help you to scale any business. You know, and apart from that, we must also recognize that there are businesses that are not scalable.
That's another issue.
There are businesses that are not scalable. That's practically the difference between a startup and a small business. You know, we'll tell you that a startup is a business that can be scaled with technology. Meaning, for instance, for a bank to have to operate in 36 states of Nigeria, they need 36 branches. But for a virtual bank that's an app,
a fintech
to operate in the 36 states of Nigeria, they most likely may need 1 or 2 branches, maybe one in the north, one in the south, or just have that branch in one location, staff it enough to deal. So that fintech is more scalable
than a commercial bank.
To the extent that the commercial banks now are beginning to develop fintech products. So that's it. So there are businesses that cannot scale. You know, but once you are within that business that can scale and you are able to build yourself and be unselfish. And I also see a lot of businesses, particularly small and medium scale businesses, they will tell you the reason they cannot train their staff is that when they train them, they will lose them. When you train them, if they work for you for a short time after the training, you most likely will earn back what you spend training them. If they even leave, whether you like it or not, life is spiritual. A seed has been sown. The harvest will always come back.
Obviously.
And beyond just training your staff, you need to also work on your systems and your structure, so that you don't just train your staff, but you build your structure. Once you build your structure, the training for a staff can be done in a way that every staff that comes into the system can go through that training, because it's automated. So all of these are not possible for someone who will not go out there to train his or herself, who will not pay for the technology that is needed, who will not take the step to train and empower their staff.
So personal growth equates business growth.
That's it.
All right, now let's look at competition. It's one area so vital in any business. Now, let's look at considering competition. How should an entrepreneur, a would-be entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, begin to assess competition in its own field of business endeavor? That's one on one end. Then let's also look at how should a particular entrepreneur stand out even in a crowded business space.
All right, competition is actually one of the games of life. We just ask that the competition be healthy, and we must also know that competition, a healthy competition, is a fight for the space in the head and mind of a customer, not necessarily having to tear down your competitor to win the competition. Because the basic thing is that all the money we are all looking for in business, in a particular market, are currently in the pockets of some persons. So the idea now is that, how do I become more rampant in this person's mind, so that whenever this person has need to spend their money, they remember me. And it's an illusion for anybody to think that because your idea is so innovative, you don't have a competition. So competition has come to stay. Like, for instance, one of the major soft drinks, I always ask this question in my trainings: what's the competition to Coca-Cola? People will tell you the 7-Up product, Pepsi, and all that. But Coca-Cola have told themselves that their competition is water. As far as they are concerned, yes, as far as they are concerned, they want a situation whereby when there is a need for somebody to, when somebody is thirsty and he has the option of a bottle of water and a bottle of Coke, they want the person to take Coke. So how are they doing it? They are constantly before your face. They are constantly, so they are not struggling to outperform Pepsi. They are constantly battling to have you. I was told, or I saw a research recently, I can't remember the exact figure now, the billions of dollars that Apple spent on research just for 2023. And experientially, I noticed that even sometimes, we used to use things like what we talk about, we used to see them show to us on ads. At some point, it was when you go on a platform, you go and check for a particular thing, based on the algorithm, they begin to follow you everywhere you go. But now, we are beginning to observe that even the things we talk about follows us on the internet. This is an experience I'm yet to validate. This one, I thought about it. I was about to travel recently. I said, this journey is just for 2 days, and I have a big bag. There's this bag I saw online that allows you to just put all your things, fold it here and there, and it's a very small bag. I said, I'll have to check back for that bag. 2 days later, I was alone, so I didn't share it with anybody. 2 days later, I started seeing advert for that bag. So something is happening. These people are studying us. They are studying us. They are studying our thoughts and everything, and they are selling to us on the basis. So the idea of competition, we must shift from wanting to know more about your competitor to wanting to know more about the markets. When you understand so much about the market will come to you because this person seems to know me. He knows what I want. So I think that's
another huge paradigm shift when it comes to the issue of competition. Now let's look at sales, advertising. Let's look at visibility, marketing. Now, most businesses, they are low on, they seems to be high on every other area, perfecting their business structure, perfecting their market research, getting these other parts right. Production process, getting it right. Then at the point of marketing, sales, they get it low. They slow down on that particular point. And it affects their output, and it affects turnover. Now, as a consultant, now let's look at over the years, what has been your observation as regards entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs in the mindset and in the area of marketing, selling, and advertising?
Okay. In the space of marketing, advertisers or strategists around that space will tell you that perfecting your products and not perfecting your sales system is like winking at a woman in the dark. The room is dark, you are just in one corner, you are winking and trying to woo a woman, and the woman is not even seeing you. You know, most of the times when people come to share thoughts and ideas with me, and I'm beginning to take them through a process where we say, okay, let's look at how do you hope to do this, how do you hope to do this. You see somebody will have ₦1 million and they spend it on all of the processes of the business without no money for marketing. You know, because people still see sales and marketing as expense. Sales and marketing is a part of your investments. You know, and for some of us who are not naturally good at selling, you will just be in that small place where you are trying to fine-tune the product. You are thinking that when the product is very good, people will come for it. It's a wrong mindset.
Wow.
It's better you master sales, and based on customers' feedback, you constantly are improving on the product.
Fine-tuning the product.
And fine-tuning the product to constantly meet, because no matter how well you do on your product without sale, you most likely may just be building the product based on your preferences. So sales gives you the opportunity to get feedback from customers. So what's the message to entrepreneurs? Don't see sales as expenses, advertisement and all of that. Don't see them as expenses. In fact, that is one thing that will determine how well you go. Yes, that's not to say do nothing about the products, because they said the best way to kill a bad product is through sales and advertising. When you advertise something bad, when everybody gets to know it,
the business dies faster.
So you must also work on the products. In fact, in the process, there's what is called a minimum viable products. There's a minimum viability that you get to. When you first get there,
You can start.
sell, and don't promise more than
What you can deliver.
You know, there are people that can engage with it at that level. But what happens is that also gives you a feedback that this solution is needed in the market.
All right. Now you've talked about feedback over and over again. It seems that in our own climb, we see feedback as negative criticism. Now let's look at entrepreneurs relating with feedbacks. We see feedbacks as negative criticism. We saw the one that happened sometimes back, how the product was criticized. You saw how the manufacturers went headlong, and you saw the negative publicity it gave to the business. Now let's look at would-be or entrepreneurs who are already doing business. How should they react to feedbacks? First and foremost, how do they create mechanisms at first? Okay, first of all, how do they create the mindset to receive feedback, the mechanisms to absorb this feedback and fine-tune that product in meeting the expectations of the customers?
Yeah, I think it's a wrong mindset for you to fight your customer for whatever reason. For whatever reason, especially today where life actually happens more on the internet. You know, I'm sure that company you just referenced, we have lots of regrets as we speak, because it's actually a gift for a customer to criticize what you're doing or to give you a feedback about how they experience your product. Is actually a gift, because the worst of customers will not talk to you, but they will talk to hundreds of other persons. So when they talk to you, they are giving you a gift. They are giving you an opportunity to correct your processes. I think when we work with this mindset, you know, and nowadays I see some brands that are very active on Twitter, on other social media platforms and all of that. Sometimes when you go and lay a complaint there, they instantly start to talk to you and ask you to come to their DM.
Yeah.
What are they doing? You know, I saw when a particular influencer, a Nigerian that lives in the US, was talking about how Nigerians should begin to patronize their homemade products. He was citing example with MTN, Glo, and all of that. After I did that, below I saw comments. I was seeing people castigating the services of the various network
Product he just
services.
mentioned, yeah.
While they were castigating, I saw some of them
Those
out
products.
there, attending to them and asking them, I'm sorry that you felt this way about our products. Please, we are on your DM, talk to us, let's see how we can deal
Do you
with it.
think those businesses should have waited for that influencer?
They shouldn't.
Should they have waited?
No, wait, see what happened. The influencer said something totally different. But these complainants obviously are happy on the publicity that influencer
Has given.
and they are dropping their complaints. You know, so but these guys have people in there that every time you complain about it, you know, when you want to complain about them, you tag them. So they followed up and they were able to deal with it. That's the major thing I'm trying to draw attention to.
All right. Now, in rounding up, now let's look at social media businesses. How should they leverage social media in scaling the business, number one, and in response to criticism? In 1 minute, as we begin to round up the conversation.
Business owners should understand that perception is more powerful than reality. Nowadays, that's how it is. You can't fight it. It's not the best products that are selling the best. It's the best perceived products that are selling the best. So everything you do on social media is not just fun. Even in fun, ensure that you are living out your value as a brand. You know, and it is abnormal for any business that want to scale not to be using social media at this time. So let's take that to heart as business people.
All right, time certainly is not our friend on this side of the divide. All right, so would have loved to engage Mr. Tres a whole lot. Would have asked them, a lot of persons are asking capital. Would have looked at types of capitals, the capital you need at a particular point in time. But time will fail us to actually delve into that area and also look at risk associated with business and a whole lot of other conversation associated with business. Obviously, we're going to have you again, certainly. I hope I won't call on you. You oblige.
I'm always available.
All right.
I like to talk about money. That's why you see what I wear. Mind your money.
All right,
To
that's
help
it.
people
To mind their money as well.
mind their money.
That's Mr. Said Tres Umokaro, and he's a business consultant. Thank you for your time. Thank you also for your time for staying around with us. I hope you've learned a thing or two from our conversation today. Join us again on Wednesday, 12 noon, as we do it again, bringing up more of this conversation. We are here, like he has said, we are here to assist you, to give you nothing short of the best. My name is Uncommon Emmanuel. Bye for now. See you again.
Community leaders will control our market.